She thought it was harmless, a joke so light it would float away with laughter and be forgotten before dessert. But that single sentence didn't just linger, it detonated, leaving wreckage scattered through every part of her life. It was supposed to be a perfect summer weekend at the Peterson family cabin, the kind that smelled of grilled ribs and pine trees. Zoe believed she belonged there. After 3 years with Alex, she felt woven into the fabric of his family. His mother adored her, his father treated her like a daughter, and she wore that acceptance like armor. Too confidently, as it turned out. The backyard was alive that evening, humming with chatter and music. Long tables overflowed with food, children darted across the lawn, and golden light slid over the mountains like a soft blanket. Alex, usually tense and hunched under city stress, looked almost unrecognizable. Here, he smiled easily, laughing without glancing at his phone, shoulders loose in a way she rarely saw. At the head of the table, Robert commanded the scene. At 55, he carried age like a tailored suit, silver hair that glinted under the sunset, laugh lines etched deep from years of stories like the one he told now. This one involved getting lost on a hiking trail and crashing a wedding reception. By the time he described raising a glass to strangers, the table vibrated with laughter. Even Karen, who surely knew the story by heart, wiped tears from her eyes. Zoe watched him and thought about how effortlessly some people drew admiration. Then her turn came to speak, a reckless instinct sharpening in her chest. Fueled by wine, comfort, and her own misplaced wit, she threw out a line that cracked like a whip across the table. One sentence. The laughter died instantly. In its place came a silence that pressed against her skin. She sensed the shift without needing to look at Alex, but when she did, the tension in his posture said everything. His jaw was locked tight. Across from him, his brother's raised brow and faint smirk added a layer of mockery that twisted in her gut. She tried to laugh, tried to make it nothing, but the air never softened again. The evening limped forward, brittle and cold, while Zoe sat in the ruins of her own remark. Later, on the drive back, she waited for the explosion that never came. Instead, there was only stillness, a quiet so precise it felt rehearsed. By Monday, the silence had been replaced with something worse. Sweetness. Unnatural, saccharine gestures, and messages layered over a core of something brewing, something she refused to name. She mistook it for forgiveness. When Friday arrived, the illusion became complete. He planned a surprise, asked her to dress casually, and she believed this was his way of restoring what had cracked. The drive was pleasant, uneventful, until the car slowed in front of a house that made her heart stutter. His brother's house. The rest unfolded like a trap snapping shut. A soft click, a car door closing, tires whispering against asphalt. And then, absence. A message lighting up her screen, like a match in the dark, burning fast and merciless. If she thought humiliation ended with a single sentence, she was wrong. The night ahead would teach her what humiliation really meant. The realization sank slowly, like ink seeping through fabric. This wasn't a joke. The empty driveway and fading taillights left no room for doubt. She stood frozen on the porch, staring at the house that loomed before her, a structure suddenly stripped of its warmth, now nothing more than a stage for her humiliation. The night wrapped around her like an iron chain. No bag, no jacket, no plan. Just the sharp mountain air biting through her thin sweater. She tried calling, tried texting, but silence became a wall that refused to break. Seconds dragged into minutes, minutes into hours. Her hands shook, not from the cold alone, but from the slow, crushing weight of understanding. This was punishment, deliberate and precise. At first, she hoped the brother would return soon, that this nightmare would shrink into an awkward story they'd laugh about years later. But when headlights finally sliced through the darkness, hope twisted into something far worse. The brother's expression was unreadable as he walked past her, keys jingling. There was no offer of rescue, only a hollow neutrality that deepened the shame pooling in her chest. The message was clear, he wouldn't interfere. When the porch light clicked off, the last thread of dignity snapped. She found herself drifting toward the yard, the grass damp and cold beneath her fingers as she sank down. The ground felt endless, a vast indifferent witness to her collapse. Above her, stars glittered with cruel detachment while every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of cars, echoed her isolation. Sleep never truly came. She drifted in and out, teeth chattering, each hour stretching like a lifetime. By dawn, her body ached, hair tangled with dew, the scent of soil clinging to her skin like shame itself. But the morning delivered a new cruelty. A phone buzz she didn't want to feel. Then another. And another. Images spilled into group chats like wildfire. Her curled on the grass, captured from a distance, grainy but unmistakable. Captions laced with mockery, private laughter spreading into public spectacle. The phrase she had once tossed out so casually, about types and preferences, had returned sharpened like a blade, carved into comments she could almost hear aloud. Friends messaged, some with pity, others with thinly veiled amusement. Her social feeds began to flicker, with cryptic posts and inside jokes. One story, posted from a familiar account, burned into her memory. A photo of a manicured lawn, words sprawled across it like graffiti, enjoying the view from my brother's yard. The humiliation was no longer private. It had metastasized into something viral. When she finally returned to their shared apartment, silence clung to every surface. His absence screamed louder than any argument could. Drawers were empty, walls stripped of their shared life. He had left behind only fragments, a mug, a forgotten charger, like deliberate ghosts of what once was. Her attempts to reach him dissolved into digital voids. Blocked numbers, unanswered emails, profiles erased from her connections. Days blurred into weeks, filled with whispers at work, sympathetic glances that sliced her pride into pieces. The world had turned her misstep into an echo chamber of ridicule, and there was no exit. Late at night, lying alone on a bed that felt too wide, she replayed the moment that started it all. The tilt of her head, the glint of mischief in her eyes, the careless rhythm of words tumbling out. "You're fine, babe. But your brother, he's totally my type." One sentence, that was all it took, one flick of the tongue to set fire to the ground beneath her feet. She once believed her type was charm, confidence, the thrill of banter. Now she knew the truth. Her type was regret, cold, sprawling, merciless. The kind that blankets a stranger's yard under a canopy of stars, while the whole world watches from the shadows, laughing, laughing.